Week 1 is in the books for South Carolina, and that means another season of Mix in or Water Monday. And who better to have on the first episode this season than a former Gamecock offensive lineman, John Strickland. Strick, appreciate you joining me today because a lot of people are going to look back to this weekend. They have a lot of questions about the offensive line. They have a lot of questions about the offense. We'll get into that. We will. But just your overall thoughts, though, on what you saw from this team in Week 1.
I thought it was a good first game. I know everybody, including myself, wanted to see a little more out of the run game and pass game, because we've, the pieces we have in place, is kind of been talked up all preseason. So we wanted to see this offense get after it. But I think overall, I thought it was a good game. Obviously, there's some stuff that needs to be cleaned up, but I thought really the defense played a great game against a hard-running Georgia State team. I mean, as I remember correctly, they were top quarter of the college football last year running the ball. So I'm proud they holding those guys to 14 points. I mean, I think that's pretty awesome. And then it was literally the best special teams played game I've ever been a part of. Our team, really. I mean, a fake field goal. Your punter averages almost 50 yards a punt, hits a 79er, and 2 block punts for a touchdown, and then returning punts. I mean, each one that Van returned, he averaged over 10 yards, averaged 11 yards of return. So, I mean, how can you not be excited about that part of it?
Special teams was phenomenal, and I know you and I were talking about it off air. Yes, call it Beamer Ball 2.0, whatever you want, but certainly give a lot of credit to special teams coordinator Pete Lembo, earning every penny that he gets paid last night and has done a tremendous job since he arrived at South Carolina a year ago. Let's just get right into it with the offense because a lot of people have questions about it, Strick. Without knowing what the game plan is, as an offensive lineman, as someone that has played at South Carolina, those Week 1 games, I'm sure, is more so trying to feel things out than anything else, right? And especially when you go against an out-of-conference team, a non-Power 5 team. It's not trying to make excuses here, but just trying to give people a better understanding of what that first game is like. Installation, all that kind of stuff, it's not going to be up to speed in comparison to what it will be like in the next couple of weeks, right? So when you go into a game like that, you have a new quarterback. What's kind of going on from an offensive standpoint? How much of you guys are really running what we're ultimately going to see with this team, you think, moving forward?
Well, I can actually kind of relate to this here a little bit. 2003, we opened up against Louisiana Lafayette, and hey, they're a Sun Belt team. So we opened up against those guys, and we only won the game 14-7. And everybody's like, man, our offense, all the outside noise was, man, the South Carolina offense. What are they going to do here? And everybody wasn't happy about that. And then the following week, though, we go out versus a top 15 team in Virginia and beat them 31-7. So I think you have to take this with a grain of salt. Georgia State is a really good football team. Don't be no mistaken about it. Even though they're in the Sun Belt, they're a really good team. They went in and beat Coastal Carolina last year at Coastal Carolina, who's a top 20 team. So as far as kind of what we did, I know we didn't show everything we're going to be doing. We didn't have to. It did get a little scary and tight there for a little bit, but I think with anything, you're just going to have some growing pains. This is the first time this unit, this personnel, new quarterback leading the system, which I thought Rattler actually played a really good game. The one interception went through the receiver's hands, and, those happen every now and then, so you can't put that one on him. And the other one, I listened to him in the postgame. You could tell how mature Spencer is. He said, yeah, already knew as soon as I threw it, that interception, I should have just checked down to Juju or ran the ball for the first down. I was just kind of wanting too much. So that's just things that he was saying he has to learn and get better at. And I think the offensive line just, a few things to work on, but, those guys know. I promise you they are not happy with how the game went. So for anybody that's all down on it, be happy. We won 35-14 versus a good Georgia State team. I'm telling you, this Georgia State team will probably, my guess, they'll win maybe 8, who knows, maybe 9 regular season games. So don't be fooled.
Strick, staying with the offensive line, you have a performance like this, and they're not stupid. They know what's being said about them on the outside today. They know what was said about them last year. As a unit, and I know it's one game. I understand. I mean, this is going to be overreaction Monday. We do that every week, regardless of how things go. People are going to be doing that with Spencer Rattler. I mean, it's just the way it goes. Going from game 1 to game 2 as a unit for the offensive line, what's going on right now leading up to this game against Arkansas to try to be able to make those corrections? Because obviously you don't have, multiple weeks to be able to get ready for an opponent. It's not like this is a bowl game. It's not like you have a bye week. This is the regular season now. So how do you try to make those adjustments over the next couple of days?
Well, they're going to get in the film room. They're going to study up, look at their mistakes. A few things I saw last night, they weren't passing off some of the twist, the D-line twist. I saw that a few times and had a guy running free just because it wasn't a clean pass off. So that's a few things you got to work on. And I mean, and that comes down to communication. So I think they can get in, correct it, get in the film room, look it all over, and just clean some things up. I mean, we got some talented offensive linemen, and I really like Coach Atkins. So, I mean, basically, they just got to get in the film room and clean it up. I mean, that's all there is to it, and then put it out on the practice field and practice it. And these guys can do it. I mean, I go back to the last game last year when all these guys played in the North Carolina game. I thought they looked great. They were a little sluggish today, and trust me, they know it. I've been in their shoes. We've had games like this where, man, you feel like you should have at least be able to run the ball, for 150 to 200 yards on a inferior team. Even though this Georgia State team really is a good team, but so trust me, those guys aren't happy about it. They're gonna get in and start working today and getting it right.
And on the outside looking in, I mean, a lot of people aren't paying attention to the offensive line when it comes to just, the matchups, right? They'll just see, all right, run game's not going anywhere. Okay, quarterback's getting sacked, or quarterback has to get the ball away quickly, okay? For you, when you watched it, is there anything in particular that stood out to you that made you say, okay, hey, this is pretty good? There's just something that at least they can hang their hat on going into week 2, or something that you could see that can be something that they can just build on after week 1. Was there anything that stood out to you at all?
Well, we threw the ball, almost, I think it was about 35 times, which I think that was the majority. I mean, listen, there was some pressure, but Georgia State, they were sending guys. They had a scheme, and they were just like, hey, we're just going to go after them and just be super aggressive, and they were. So I mean, there was some good clean pockets here and there. So I guess they can take that. But really, I mean, they got to clean some stuff up because Arkansas and going forward in Georgia, I mean, they got some dogs, those teams that are really good players. So I don't know. I think there was some good and there was some bad. So I guess, in long story short, you can take the good and then build off of it and make it better.
You mentioned communication just being important, especially when you're doing zone blocking. But now you're going to Arkansas, right? Now you're going to go into a hostile environment for Spencer Rattler. This might be the loudest crowd that he's ever been in front of. So I say all that, Strick, because as an offensive line, and you've played in Arkansas before, what do you need to do to just make sure that communication is there? I mean, what are some of the things that, from an offensive line standpoint, that you guys do, especially when you're out there and it's getting loud and you're trying to just make sure you're on the same page when you're doing that zone blocking scheme?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I've been in Tennessee in overtime in 2003, and I couldn't hear a thing. I couldn't even hear myself talk. We were down in the end zone, I think on the 8-yard line, and I had to tell Dondrell, I was like, man, if you're under center, you're just gonna have to flick your hand when you're ready for me to snap it. I can't hear you. I just couldn't. So that's what we did. But as far as us on the offensive line, I mean, when you get down there and it's super loud, it does make it difficult. But typically, you're making your calls as soon as you walk up to the line, so everybody can kind of echo it to each other. I mean, there's some things they can do, some shifts and change during the play, and you have to take that into account. So that's the good thing about home field advantage, though, right? It helps out on things like that. So communication will be key, and you got to make sure that everybody is on the same page going in, especially an away game. I mean, any game really, but when you go to a away game, you got to be on your P's and Q's. That's for sure.
See, folks, we're heading into week 2. Johnny Strickland, former Gamecock offensive lineman, reminding you to do as you see right there. Mix in a water. It's all right. All right. Mix in a water. There's
Water,
good,
baby.
there's bad. There's going to be things that we're going to continue to break down each week here on Gamecock Central. But Strickland helping out a little bit on the offensive line.